Hi, everyone. We're here with the Redis Enterprise team and the Java at Microsoft team to speak about a little bit about Redis Enterprise and the upcoming general availability of some of the features. And we're really excited to have the Redis Enterprise team here. We've got Tug and Ajeet. And I think first, let's just do an introduction around who we are. So, hi, my name is Rory. I'm a senior advocate in the Java advocacy team, and I have been doing Java for most of my life, actually, 21 years now, based in Johannesburg. And let's look at another one of our leaders in the Java team, Julien Dubois. Julien, say hello.
Hi, hello everyone. So I'm Julien Dubois. I'm currently managing the Java developer advocacy team at Microsoft. So I work with Rory, of course. I've been doing Java also for 20 years. It's only old guys here. I'm mostly known in the Java community as working on Gipster. And by the way, Gipster works on Azure and works with Redis. So it's like, joining all the dots here. I'm very excited to work with the Redis team on Redis Enterprise because I've been using, I would say, the open source version of Redis for a long time, and of course I'm very excited to be able to have something with more features and also more enterprise SLAs and that kind of thing on Azure.
Great, thank you, Julien. Tug, maybe a quick introduction, please.
So I am Tug. I'm working in the dev relation team at Redis Labs, and like Julien and you, I've been working in the Java community for many years. And I know Julien from, as you can guess from my accent, I am French also, and we meet each other in many meetups and conferences. And I joined Redis a year ago, and very exciting about the work that has been done with the Microsoft team to deliver a new managed service for Redis.
Brilliant. Hi, Ajeet. It's great to meet you. And please tell us a bit about yourself.
Hello, everyone. Yeah, this is Ajeet here. So I have around 13 years of experience working in different diversified roles like solution architect, IT consultant, as well as the principal systems engineer. I have been working in Redis Labs as a technical marketing manager, and the main role has been creating a kind of a technical marketing content strategy that can help our customer and prospects. I'm also a part of a Docker captain as well as an ARM innovator. Great to see you guys.
Great, thanks so much. So now the introductions are done. Let's talk a little bit about Redis Enterprise and Redis on Azure. So I think that the question that I really want clarified is, what is Redis Enterprise? Tug, if you could just fill us in.
So Redis Enterprise is a solution that Redis Labs is building at the top of Redis open source to provide an easy way of delivering database in a highly available and scalable manner. So you can use Redis Enterprise in various ways. You can install it locally, but you also have it as a managed services. And typically what we have done is delivering Redis Enterprise as part of the Azure offering. So as part of the Azure cache for Redis, what you have behind it now, it's options to select Redis Enterprise, providing an easy access to the database you are creating or to the cache that you are creating with high availability built in. So replication of the data, failover, and scalability is made very easily. And in addition to that, we also have storage. You can store more data on disk if you want. So Redis Enterprise, it's about getting a better version of Redis open source for manageability, high availability, but also some additional functions like storing data on flash disk and other stuff that we will discuss later about options you can use as a developer.
Great, thank you so much. That really helps understand it. Ajeet, maybe if you could also speak to, Tug mentioned some of the great new features around Enterprise, that it's a platform and more than just a cache. What are the additional features of Redis Enterprise?
So when you talk about Redis Enterprise, right, this is for the enterprise customer. This is one of the fastest way where you can go ahead and deploy, given environment where you have an enterprise support, you have high availability. So anything and everything which you need for a customer or enterprise support, today Redis Enterprise give you that option where any customer, if they want to go ahead and deploy it around multiple cluster, even if you want to run it on a Kubernetes cluster today, we do have a support for that. So all about the high availability, scalability, as well as ensuring that your data is safe. And it is more of the speed, like you have a Redis on Flash, which you can go ahead and try to deploy it and to make it more faster. So it is basically a kind of an enterprise offering for all our customer who wants to try out Redis either on-prem or as well as in a cloud.
Great, thank you. Can you, Tug, please just touch on, I keep on hearing these nice keywords, Redis Search, Redis Bloom, and Redis Time Series. What are these interesting features?
So just before talking about these additional features, one important part when we talk about Redis Enterprise is, as a developer, you get used to work on, as Julien said, he's used to work with Redis open source for many years. And he's plugged in Spring in the past, in JHipster today. And a Java developer, you are used to work on and connect to a Redis cache on-prem, on your local image, or on Azure. Working with Redis Enterprise as a developer, it's totally transparent. The only thing that changes, it's maybe the default port that you are used to. You just change that to a different port that will be the one exposed by Azure. And you get all the values of high availability and clustering, totally transparent. And one of the benefits for the developer in this case is if you are used to work with clustering in Redis, when you want to distribute the keys between multiple shards, so between multiple machines or processes, your client application has to know that you work with a cluster. With Redis Enterprise, because we have a built-in proxy at the top of it, it's totally transparent. So you are working from an application developer point of view, from a code point of view, like if you work on a single instance of Redis, and you may have 6, 7, 10 instances behind the scene doing scalability and high availability. And this is what makes something interesting. So if you have something that is always available, that can scale like your application, that is fast. We all know that Redis is very fast, but also can store data on disk. It's becoming a little more than a simple cache. You can use that to store your application data. Then comes a discussion about data modeling. And if you are used to Redis, you know that you have these 10 data types that you can use. But what if you want, as what you were touching, is you want to add some full text search, or you want to index a part of your data. So you are storing, because you think Redis is very, very good for this part of your system, you create a service storing all your user profiles. And it's becoming your main database for your profile for your applications, because it's highly available, it's stored on disk, so you won't lose your data. But you need to be able to access this data in different keys. And you cannot only use the email, suppose you use the email as a key, not a very good example, but let's say this is what you use. But you want to be able to find by first name, or doing some aggregations or calculations to do that with other field, like in which regions, in which country are my users. If you are using the core data structure of Redis, you have to code a lot of stuff yourself. You have to create sets that will become the index, and query the index, and go back to the initial hash that you have used inside Redis. To simplify this part, the Redis community, as an open source community, has created the concept of modules. So there are extensions that you can add to your Redis database that add data types on new commands. And one of the module is Redis Search. Redis Search is a full text index, full text capabilities with indexing capabilities. And as part of Redis Enterprise running on Azure, you can enable, just with a simple checkbox saying, I want to use Redis Search to do full text search. Any questions on the search? Any more information?
That's fascinating. Julien, would you like to actually ask some questions?
Yes, there's first thing which is I'm very excited on. You mean I can already use that with JHipster, because if it's fully compatible with Redis open source, I mean, Gypster is already working with Redis Enterprise without me doing anything. So that's the first thing which I'm very excited because I don't have to do anything, and that's where I am the best. And second thing, I'm very interested by all those features you talk about, because one of the issues I have, typically with Gypster, but in a more general way, is I have an issue with scaling when I need more data that what I can fit into RAM. So if you can offload things to disk, I'm guessing that I can have as many data as I can, and that's really good. And the second thing is that, most of my users for Gypster, they want to search that data at some point. So usually what we do is like, we have a database, we have a Redis cache, we have Elasticsearch, and it's all very complex to set up. That's the first issue. And the second issue is that we've got synchronization issues. You know, sometimes you've got an issue with Elasticsearch and data is deleted in the database, but not in the Elasticsearch because we don't have like, global transactions around that. It just doesn't exist. Here with Redis, what you mean is that I don't have to do anything to have everything indexed, but I'm guessing also that I'm going to have excellent data quality because it's all in the same place.
Yeah.
And can you just confirm that?
When you enable the module, so when you say I want to use Redis search, it adds some command like we call ft, so fulltext.add to add data into the index, ft create to create a schema. So you have to create a schema to indicate which field do you want to index and which type of data structure it is, because you may want to do full text search on one part with some specific rules. Some other will be simple tags to do very fast and to optimize the memory. But when you save data into your database using this, obviously, since it's in the same space, the index, the full text index, will be in sync with your core data. Yeah. So you have two ways of using, we see two ways today by developers using Redis search. One is what you just described. We have the data, we want to do queries, so we want the data on the index on the same place. And in this case, you see that as a single database that can be used. And one of the benefits, it's avoiding to have a database, a cache, an indexing platform. You start with, for example, a simple data structure, you add the index, and you have the full text search indexing on the database on a single API, on a single connection string. So you make that very, very simple, keeping in mind that it's fully managed and integrated with the Azure capability. So all the metrics, the billing is single place, and you can scale as much as you want. The next use case, another interesting usage that we see on Redis search, it's used as an index for external database. So if you have you use MySQL or something else, and you don't want to use, obviously most of the time it's come because people have started to use Redis as a cache at the top of MySQL. So part of their data, so I won't go in all the discussion we can have about invalidations, which kind of pattern you want to use, but let's say you have your SQL database, you have already the cache with Redis, and you want to do some advanced queries on that. More advanced than simple SQL, but you don't want to use the full text kind of capabilities on your underlying SQL database. You can do that directly in your cache. So in this case, you will only store the index, doing some queries, and maybe you will have to go back to the cache or to the primary database, depending on the pattern you choose. But it's opening the box to really make the life of the developer very, very easy. Everybody that has used Redis is impressed by two things, simplicity and speed. And we want to keep this simplicity and speed for more use cases, and we want the scale and the management capabilities of Azure. So it's what we have done all together as partners. So this is for search. And we also, as part of these different modules, as an open source community of Redis is adding more and more modules. And we have deployed on Azure 3 of them, search, time series, on Bloom filter. So Bloom filter, it's quite it's a traditional kind of data structure when you want to check if something is present in a list or not. A very efficient way in terms of memory consumptions, in terms of speed. You have a white list and black list of IP addresses. You want to very, very quickly check. In a call, what he will give you for sure it is not in the list, or it's maybe in the list. So if the answer is no, you can go, and it's not part of your blacklist IP addresses. If it says yes, it's present, it's a maybe. In reality, you will have to check because it's a probabilistic approach. But the benefits of that is you are consuming almost no memories, and it's very, 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 very fast. And this is one of the algorithms and one of the modules that you have now as part of the Azure Cache for Redis. The last one is time series. Because you need to do a lot of aggregations, manipulations, and you want to have kind of a buffer database for very fast access for example, for IoT or metrics, and you want to, I will say as a sad example of time series, many people use Redis time series to do some monitoring around the COVID during the lockdown and all this stuff, to look in real time, more or less in real time, about what's happening. And when you have to save data, query them on specific intervals, sparing them on specific interval with some tags, for example, give me the number of new people in the hospital for last week between this time and this time in this country versus this city versus this country. Instead of having to build a very complex data model to do that, just let's use a time series database by simple doing some basic operations. You will have a way of tagging the different values, and you then have aggregations tools to do that. And you have plugins to plug that in various data visualization tools, from Redis one called Redis Insight to Grafana or other platforms.
Wow, it sounds like Redis Enterprise really is a great platform to look and to really get insight into your data. And like you touched on, it enables data analytics and machine learning. Thank you for that answer. So, and it's great that we have that platform available. If you could touch on Ajeet maybe and Tug, on what is the Redis Microsoft partnership? You know, I keep on hearing it, that the platform that is offering here. Where are we going with this partnership, and what kind of excitement can developers anticipate?
Okay, so I will take up that question. So if you look at the Microsoft and Redis Lab partnership, it is basically, it is all about bringing new features to Azure cache for Redis. So there has been developers who have utilized the speed and throughput of Redis to produce the unbeatable responsiveness and scaling their application. And this Azure cache for Redis is basically the managed solution, which was built on most primarily the open source Redis. But with this partnership, what has happened is Redis, along with the Microsoft, they are going to build a new expanded offering, which is powered by the Redis Labs technologies, and which aims as the need of an enterprise customer. So that is the whole. And with this integration with Azure Cache, so now the customer can go ahead and they can access the Redis Labs developed modules like Redis Search, Redis Bloom, and Redis Time Series.
That's great. And well, welcome. We're going to have a great partnership together, and I look forward, maybe even I can borrow money from you one day, and then we can, oh no, it's not that kind of partner, I understand. Okay, and then one of the last questions I have is that, you know, developers want to start on Redis Cache. So how can they actually get started on Redis Cache, the documentation, and just touch on what they can look forward to also? Tug, maybe?
Yes, so one of the things is the Microsoft Azure team has started to do a getting started. It's part of the official Microsoft Azure documentation that explain how to create and what are the specifics when you want to create an enterprise version of Azure Cache for Redis, where it explains in which region it's available, how do you check which option you can select. So the good part is, for people that are used to work with Redis on Azure, the only first steps are different. It's which kind of subscription I want to use, how do I want to configure, do I want to use a flash or not, do I want to use persistent on disk, more memories and disks, more disks and more data than memory, and so on. Then when it's finished, you get a connection string and it's done. And what is interesting for that, as part of this first getting started, is just the first example of how you can work and start to use Redis Enterprise on Azure. And next, I think your team and our team will work together to build more content, at least for Java developer for sure, and to show which type of feature we can use and highlight for developers.
Great, thank you. I really look forward to it. And can you touch on briefly on the roadmap? So what are the milestones? What are the nice kind of excitement features that are coming up for Redis Enterprise on Azure?
So the first one is we are currently in a preview. The first one will make that public and general available for everybody. This is a big step of continuing the work we do together. The other part is adding more features and also upgrading Redis. So I will start with upgrading Redis. So as you know, Redis 5 is what has been the most deployed, but in May, it was a big move for the Redis community to Redis 6. And what we want is together to give the choice to the developer to choose between Redis 6 or Redis 5. And as part of the very important features, and I will say one of the very visible features for people that will come with Redis 6 support into this deployment, it's ACL, Access Control List. On a specific database, you will be able to say these keys based on pattern are only available for this kind of user for read or write or queries, or I cannot do a scan, I can do a scan. You will have permissions on specific keys patterns. It's quite important if we want, you were talking as part of use cases about analytics and so on, you want to be sure that your application that is doing analytics doesn't have a way to modify the data, for example, or only modify cached data because they will use its own cache. But the core data located in the same database should not be modified by this process, for example. And then, and I don't have exactly the milestone in terms of time, but it's integration to Active Directory for authentications and for security for the database. All the compliance, because one of the big part when you are a managed database and you are using a cloud like Azure is you have so many certification and compliance that has been done by Microsoft to do healthcare data, to do banking information. It's not my specialty, because I think you have more than 90 certificates in all different industries. One of the stuff is to continue to work to be sure that people that want these certifications can work with Redis. And it just validates this part, the type of compliance that we have automatically, or sometimes we need some work. For example, be sure that you use security and certificate to authenticate to your database. Basic stuff, I will say in this case. And discussions around multi-cluster replications, adding different modules. It's really still an open discussion. And the Microsoft engineering team and Redis Labs engineering team are working closely. And I don't know if you have access to that, but me, I have access to the meeting notes of the two teams. It's quite exciting. A lot of stuff's going on. And we also expect a lot of feedback from these previews to kind of which one is more important. So for example, the Active Directory integration is very important because this is how people are connecting to their database from their applications. So this is the kind of things we are working together.
Great, thanks. That's pretty exciting. I can't wait for the announcements for all of those features coming up. And I hope that this has shed some light on the incredible platform that Redis Enterprise actually has over and above what I'm used to, which is a really great leader, gold standard in caching strategies. So I'm just going to thank you very much for your time today. Thank you, Ajeet and Julien and Tug, for this really engaging interview. And we look forward to actually having those announcements. You can follow the announcements on the Microsoft blogs. You've got the docs for the quick starts, and you've got now a really good understanding of the Redis Enterprise platform. Thank you so much, Tug, Julien, and Ajeet.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.